All right. So I think that should be good. We've got people on. Hello, Martha from Texas. Yeah, I don't want to waste anybody's time just sitting here twiddling our thumbs. So I'll go ahead and jump in. And anybody that jumps in after I've started, if you are watching live, please jump into the comments and say hello, ask a question, do whatever you want in there as long as you are nice. That's all I ask. Okay. So, hello and welcome. If you don't know who I am, my name is Michael Robertson Jr. I am an author of horror and supernatural fiction, and a few mysteries tossed in there as well. And I do these Facebook Lives once a month. I call them my monthly updates. If you've been around for a while, you will know that I actually used to do these weekly. I used to do my weekly "What Am I Doing" updates. And beginning of this year, after doing that for about four or 5 years straight, I decided to just change things up for various reasons. So now I do weekly written and audio updates over on my Substack, which is kind of like a blog slash podcast platform. The link to that should be in the description of this video if you want to check that out. I share um, random stuff over there and including some stuff I'll talk about a little bit later in this video. But in terms of what's on Facebook, I'm doing these video lives once a month now. And I actually screwed up. I missed doing one in March. I had it in my head to do one last week, and then my daughter had a couple softball games back to back, and I just didn't get one scheduled. So we are technically in April, so I've called this one the April monthly update, but depending on how things go, I might decide to do one at the end of April as well. We'll see. Anyway, but I still do talk about the same things that I used to talk about in my weekly update. I'll talk to you guys about projects that I'm working on and then also discuss movies or TV shows and books that I've enjoyed since our last chat. So that's kind of what we do. And then, of course, every once in a while, I'll get random topics that I want to go off on. And again, if you guys want to ask questions or want to talk about something, please jump into the comments and ask and let me know. Always happy to see what you guys are up to as well. So, with that said, we will jump into the first category, which is what am I reading? And I have been in a little bit of, I don't want to say a reading slump, but I have not read a ton of books, mostly because the audiobook that I'm listening to is really long. It's The Winners by Frederick Bachman. And I can't remember if I had actually started this book yet or not when we met last time, but this is the third book in the Beartown series. And I'm about halfway through it now, halfway through the audiobook. I think it was 20 something hours long. So I'm a little over halfway through it. But it's good. I'm really enjoying it, and I don't need to go into too much detail about what it's about. If you're interested, go read Beartown first, if you want to get a feel for what this series is like. But I always tell everybody that if you want to get a good feel of what Frederick Bachman is capable of, to start with A Man Called Ove, because that was what got me hooked on his writing, and they've made movies about that. The most recent one was starring Tom Hanks. That was the American version that just came out, I think, a couple months ago. So that's what I'm listening to. But in terms of what I've been reading, I think I was in the middle of this book or had just about finished this book when we talked last time. I did finish reading The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. And I think this is the third or fourth book of his that I've read, and he's really good. I really enjoy him a lot. He's got some twists in his mysteries. They're decent thrillers. Um, I like it. And this book, um, I texted my mom as I was reading this because she had read it before me, and this book started out as kind of okay, I've seen this story 100 times. I'm still interested in it. It's still good writing. I'm going to see it through to the end. Kind of didn't he do it kind of thing. And then in the last probably quarter of the book, it took such an unexpected left turn just into the middle of nowhere in such a way that was so fun that I just never expected, and it just changed my entire opinion of the book so much. So, really, really like pleased that I did not see this twist coming, and I liked it a lot. So, The House Across the Lake started out being kind of like, okay, here we go again, and now it's maybe my favorite Riley Sager book. So I don't know. His new one's coming out, I think, in June, so I'll definitely be picking that one up. And then I also finished The Broken Girls, which is my third Simone St. James book, and also probably I think I'll put it. I don't know. It's kind of hard. The Sundown Motel is still my favorite of Simone St. James's books that I've read, and then I read The Broken Girls, and I read gosh, what was the one? The Book of Cold Cases. I can't. I'm having a hard time picking which one's two and which one's three in my ranking of those. I think the Book of Cold Cases, I liked the small town feel better, but I thought the ghost story was kind of weaker. This one had a better ghost story. I don't know. We'll just put them both tied for second, but I think that the Sundown Motel is still my favorite Simone St. James book for sure. But she's great. I really enjoy her writing. She's got a formula and it works. I don't always love books that jump back and forth in time. Um, you know, it's a pretty common narrative structure, but sometimes it just doesn't work for me because I feel like it pulls me out of the element. Um, I've written stories that do that as well, so I understand the thematic and again the narrative structure and the requirement for it sometimes to tell certain stories, but it can be hit or miss in terms of my own enjoyment. And in this particular case, um, I did not love the flashback scenes. And it's not a fault of the writing or the story or the plot or the prose or anything, but it wasn't something that I really looked forward to. I much prefer the chapters that took place in the modern day. What else? Oh, I finished I Will Find You, which is Harlan Coben's latest book. I read that one, very quickly, as I usually do all of his. That was a really fast read. It almost felt faster than normal for one of his books. And again, with him, there's always that situation where you're never really quite sure how it's going to end up. You can guess all you want, but you're usually not correct. Even when you think you've got it figured out, there's another twist. This one I kind of had bits and pieces of it put together, but still, you always wait to see how it's all going to shake down. So I still think he's the master of the hook and twist for sure. And his book, I always say this, and I mentioned this in my Substack, my Midnight Coffee write up when I finished this book. I'm always amazed at how easy he makes it look because his writing is so simple yet effective. It's not overly descriptive. It's not wordy in dialogue. There's not a lot of exposition. It's just so simple, and his mysteries are so good, and he makes it look so easy, and I just know it's not. And I wish sometimes that I could write more like him in terms of being more sparing with my descriptiveness sometimes. I mean, I know I have my own style and I like to be descriptive sometimes to a fault. But when I read Coben's books, I'm just like, man, he makes these pages fly, and it is truly a skill set for sure. Um, there's no questioning why he's such a bestseller. Let's see. And I'm currently reading, I'm only about 15% into this book. It's another big one. I think it's close to 600 pages. I'm reading Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez, and I'm reading this one on my Kindle. And this was a book that Paul Tremblay recommended on the Losers Club podcast, and he said it was when he read it, it instantly shot up the charts to one of his favorite horror novels of all time. Um, I don't really know how to classify this one yet. It seems kind of like gothic horror, and I think there's going to be kind of multiple parts in multiple locations. Um, it's it's got a unique writing style. I believe it was translated from Spanish initially. I think that was the language of origin originally for this author, but so far it's really interesting. In fact, I don't know enough about the plot and what exactly is going on to speak too much to this, but the main character, who is a middle-aged man who's traveling with his son right now, he's got some supernatural gifts in terms of being able to see spirits and the dead and communicate in certain ways with rituals. And it kind of reminds me a lot of Lance, but in a much more darker and kind of hardcore and grisly fashion. Not as fun and upbeat as some of the Lance stuff is. So it's kind of like hardcore Lance in my brain, and I'm not really sure where we're going with it, but I know I got a lot of story left, so we'll see what happens. But again, that's called Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm reading. And in terms of if you guys are looking to read something else, this kind of is segueing. I'm jumping ahead into what I'm working on. I did just write a new Lance Brody short story. It's not very long. It's about 3,500 words. It's up on my Substack, Midnight Coffee, and you can read like the first third of it, I think, for free. And then there's a break if you want to join my Substack for a couple bucks a month. You can read that full story. And then there's also an audio version that I narrate as well. So if you want to know want to say a quick hello to Lance and see what he's been up to since the end of Dark Choice, it's out there. And again, the link is, I believe, in the description of this video. If not, I've posted other things on the Facebook page to it, so you can probably find a link there somewhere. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I have been kind of reading and then writing. And then movie wise, what have I watched that's any good? I did go see the new Scream film. I broke my theater hiatus. Again, I wrote about this on Substack, but I had not been to a movie theater since well before the pandemic started. I was kind of disgusted with them. I was so tired of going and seeing movies and having the experience ruined by people or other things just not being great. And I was tired of overpaying for a subpar experience. So I hadn't been to a theater in years and years and years. And then I got really hyped for Scream 6 because you guys know I'm a huge Scream head. I love it. It's probably my favorite horror franchise, right up there with Halloween. I've kind of called Scream my generation's Halloween. And I didn't want to wait to try to avoid spoilers because I didn't know how long it was going to take them before they put it out on streaming anywhere. So I bit the bullet and I went on a Sunday at noon. It was the earliest showing on probably the slowest movie day. And it was good because there was not very many people in the theater. They were all quiet and respectful. And it's a great film. It is a really good film. I really have enjoyed what they've been doing with the new Scream. I'm hoping this is going to be a new trilogy because 5 was good. But they just called it Scream. That came out last year. 6 is good. Jenna Ortega is amazing. I did a podcast episode with my buddy Jason, again, over on Midnight Coffee, where we discuss Scream 6. So if you want to hear us talk about that, what we liked and what we didn't like, and what we think the franchise is doing well, you can go check that out. But really enjoyed it. I'm just really happy that I got to go see it. And I'll definitely watch it again here at home once it's made available. And then I watched Knock at the Cabin, the adaptation of Paul Tremblay's novel, The Cabin at the End of the World. I'm not sure why they changed the name of that, but maybe just it seems more menacing. But M. Night Shyamalan directed the film, and this is available to watch now on Peacock if you're a Peacock subscriber. And it was okay. I enjoyed it because I really liked the novel, and I thought the performances in this were pretty good. Um, the thing that struck me as kind of odd about it was even though there were some fairly bloody kills in it, the film overall seemed a little glossy to me, a little too shiny, where I think it could have been a little more matte, like and flat and a little darker in tone. I don't know. It was good. I'm glad I got to watch it. I'm happy for Paul Tremblay because I think his work is fantastic. So it was nice to see something adapted like this, and hopefully this will encourage some people to go read his work, especially A Head Full of Ghosts. That's definitely, I think, where people should start with him because he gets kind of out there and he's a little more literary than genre fiction. But I'm a big fan of his, as you guys know, because I've talked about him a lot over the years. And then just last night, I'm actually going to write up a post for this over on Substack because it was interesting, some of the story behind this. But I watched just last night for the first time, Book of Shadows, which is Blair Witch Project 2, and not the film that just came out few years ago that was just called Blair Witch. there was a like instant follow-up sequel to the Blair Witch Project that came out in like 2000, I think, that was just called Book of Shadows. And I have a funny story about this that I'll write about. But long story short, I tried to watch it once and it didn't work right. And this is when I was in high school. And for some reason, I never tried to watch it again. And I think the biggest reason for that is it usually gets kind of bashed in the horror world. It doesn't have very good reviews. People don't seem to like it very much. And I have thoughts on this. I have lots of thoughts on this because, spoiler alert, I really liked it, like way more than I was expecting to like it. So I'm going to talk about that over on Substack just briefly to kind of shed some more light in my thinking on that. But yeah, Book of Shadows, it's on Shudder. That's actually why I decided to watch it, because I saw it was one of the new films that they had just added. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been watching. Television wise, finished the new season of You on Netflix, which took a really interesting turn. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was both like really surprised and also kind of disappointed at the twist in that. Not that I was unhappy watching it or didn't want to watch it anymore once the twist was revealed, but I had some certain feelings about the main character that kind of got shattered when you learn the twist. Um, and then just started watching Succession that came back 2 weeks ago on HBO. So I'm a big fan of that. Would argue that it's one of the best dramas on television. If you can stomach the tone and the pace of it and the language. And then also watching Ted Lasso, which just came back on Apple TV Plus. So I think they've had 3 episodes of that. That's always fun. But the show that really like completely blindsided me, that I think was just fantastic, that just wrapped up on Apple TV, was Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Super good, super funny, very heartfelt. The perfect kind of story. If there had been a ghost in Shrinking, it would check all my boxes. Amazing. So if you have Apple TV Plus, there's a lot of good stuff coming out on that, or has been out on that. There's a new show, I think, that just started called like the Big Door Prize or something, that apparently is like also really good. That's getting a lot of praise. I think some of the guys that made some of the people, I don't know if they're guys or not, some of the people that were behind Schitt's Creek had something to do with this. So I'm pretty excited to check that out. Yeah, I think that's it for TV. Been watching some basketball. Obviously, I watched the girls' tournament last week and this weekend, and the guys' championship game is tonight. I'm not sure I'm going to watch that just because I think this is maybe the most boring year for like NCAA men's basketball ever. Maybe except the pandemic year, or like the 2019 2020 season. That was a pandemic year, I guess. I don't know. It was just, it's weird that we had such a crazy Final Four. Like, good for those schools, but not good for fans who were just like, who are these teams and why are they here? But I'm being a little biased there, I guess. But they said this is the first year, I think, that the men's Final Four, no team in the Final Four had a McDonald's All American on their team, which is just bonkers. But anyway, that's about it. And then my last category, I mentioned the new Lance story, but in terms of what I'm working on, uh, I can already like hear the groans collectively. I still haven't started a new book. I was doing outlining for the next Lance Brody book, and I had a really good idea that I really liked, and then I got sidetracked because I got another idea for another Lance book that I think might be more fun to write. So now I'm kind of like putting plot points together for that. I still have my screenplay ideas for a Lance short film and then also a feature length that's not Lance related. I don't know what to write, and it's starting to make me a little crazy because I feel like I just need to start something. That's also like one of the reasons why I wrote the Lance Brody short story. That's Our Time, because I just wanted to write something. I needed to write something both to get ideas out and also just to kind of get back in the flow of writing prose again, because aside from the Christmas short story, which was called Christmas Tradition, that I published on Substack as well, I haven't written any fiction. I have not written fiction at all since I finished The End House, which was back in like September. Um, so yeah, I haven't written anything, and I want to, I need to, and I know that several of you guys have been waiting for something new. I get messages. It's very humbling, like it really is, and it makes me feel good, and it's very encouraging. I get messages on Facebook all the time, comments on my ads. Hey, when's the next Lance book? What's coming next? I need a new book. And they range from politely asking to basically screaming at me to write more. And it's great. And it's on me. I need to just sit down and figure out what story is really resonating with me and what I think I want to commit to and tell the best story that I can tell. So that's where I stand currently. And hopefully I can give you guys some more news on projects down the road. But the good news is once I get started, I can usually write books fairly quickly. So not like super fast, like not in a couple weeks, but I can usually get a first draft finished in 2, 3 months, 4 months at the most, which I know seems like a long time, but I know I'm upset about it too. I did a whole video on Substack about how I almost quit writing last year. If you want to get into some of the details on what I was doing last year and how things were shaking out, you can go find that video and watch it. But yeah, I kind of had to restart and reboot and get the juices flowing again. But anyway, that's where we stand. That's all I got. I don't have anything else to announce. If you guys have anything else you want to ask or know from me at the moment, jump into the comments. And again, check out the Substack. Most of the content over there is free, but there is a paid subscription if you guys want to help support me a little bit, and get access to some of those additional posts, like the short stories and audio versions of posts and video podcasts and stuff like that. You know, it's all out there. Okay, I think I'm done. I don't think I'm missing any comments. They're not like, I don't think they're frozen or anything. So yeah, I'll end this. I'll wrap this up. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I know it still seems weird that we're doing this once a month instead of weekly, but it is the nature of the beast. I do the weekly updates over on Substack. And if you're new over here, and if you maybe haven't read all the Lance books, if you're interested, there is that new ebook bundle where you can get all of them in one shot. Um, for I think $9.99, or you can jump in Kindle Unlimited and you can read them all for 1 month subscription. If you read fast enough, they're all out there. Whichever you choose to do, if you do read the books or if you have read the books and you enjoyed them and you want to do me a huge favor, if you could jump onto Amazon and leave a review saying you like the books, I would appreciate it. Reviews do go a longer way in helping authors than you might think. Oh, and gosh, I'm so like fuzzy on my timeline. There is a new bundle of the Shiffy books as well. You can get both Run No More and Pray No More for a few bucks cheaper than if you were to buy them individually. That's also in the Kindle store. If you just search for Shiffy PI, you should be able to find them. So that is what's up. I appreciate you guys. As always, thank you for all of the kind words and the messages and the comments and the likes and the shares and the emails and the tweets and everything. I really do appreciate it. Trust me, believe me when I say that. Means the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Especially those of you that have been around for years, following me and hanging out with me as I try to figure this whole thing out and just try to tell stories and have a good time with you guys. So thanks again, and we will talk soon. Bye.